Since the beginning of 2024, Kelowna's townhouse market has been flooded with new listings, but are prices actually dropping with this new inventory? And if you're a seller right now, there's one key metric that you need to watch that could put more money in your pocket. And in this video, that is exactly what we're going to discuss, starting with the townhouse prices. So these will be prices for the Central Okanagan, mainly Kelowna, as that's where most of the sales occurred. And this is as at the end of July. We are at the beginning of September, I realize, but the numbers haven't come out yet, and I will be doing a future townhouse video then. So let's start there at the end of July of 2024. So we ended out for the typical townhouse here in the Central Okanagan is $780,000. We had quite the jump from June from 717. There was a bunch of very large sales in terms of townhouses, which does affect or skew that price a little bit. I expect that price to come back down in August, probably closer to what it was in June. And in terms of price where we're sitting historically, prices are back to about mid-January of 2022, which actually isn't far off the peak. The peak was at 837, and we're down about 7% since the peak. And from July up to the peak, that's been about 29 months. And then if we take it back another 29 months, the value of the typical townhouse here in the Central Okanagan increased over that 29 months about 57%. Now, if you've owned a townhouse for any amount of time, let's say you bought 12 months ago, prices are up about 1.6%. 3 years ago, you're up 13.7%, and 5 years ago, you're up a whopping 46.8%. If you're finding this content helpful so far, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on my future videos around Kelowna and the Central Okanagan. And if you are a buyer or a seller in this area, I do have a link down below in the description where you can book a one-on-one call with me there. Now let's dig into the stats a little bit further here. Sales for July, we are sitting at 63 sales, which is just a 3% increase over last year. The benchmark price, again, you're about 1.7% over this time last year. Now, days to sell is a very important number if you are a seller right now. So this number, 46 days to sell on average, is down about 8% since this time last year. Now, this is what I like to call the advertised days to sell on our board's website, on the Association of Interior Realtors website. But if you dig into the actual days to sell, and you'll have to ask your realtor or me to do it, and I do it every month just to see what the actual days to sell are. And the actual days to sell, or the cumulative days to sell, if you're selling a townhouse right now, is 73. Now, the reason there's such a discrepancy between these numbers is because listings, they'll get put on the market, say they'll get put on for 30 days, they'll get a price reduction, but they'll cancel that listing, relist it at the new price, and then that resets the days on market. And then our board only counts those days on market from that new listing. For example, if a townhouse, say, sits on the market for 60 days at a certain price, they do a price reduction after 60 days. Then after that price reduction, the townhouse actually sells in 13 days. Then that brings us to our actual, or the cumulative, days on market, which is 73. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about lowering the price after 30 days, that the actual or the average days on market is actually 73. If you actually lower it too soon, you might be losing out on some money. But of course, there are circumstances outside of price and days on market. Like if you actually have to sell and you've already bought a place already and you really want to sell and get moving into that new place, or if you're moving out of province or out of the city, there's going to be factors in there. But if you don't have to sell quickly, you might actually want to wait the extra days or weeks just to see if a buyer does come along at that price, because again, the actual days to sell, we're actually sitting at 73. Now, the list to sale ratio, again, this is another number here. So this goes from the last listing price to when you sell. So you, as the seller and the buyer, you're negotiating around 2% off the list price. So if it's $1 million townhouse, you're negotiating on average around $980,000. Now, someone asked in the last video here of what's the original list to sale ratio. So when you list it originally, let's say you did list it 73 days ago and you've done a bunch of price drops, The average is still sitting around 97%, and total amount of inventory right now we're sitting at 447 townhouses on the market, which is a 37% increase since this time last year. Now you can tell the buyers haven't returned because sales have only increased by 3.3%, and prices actually have not come down at all since this time last year. Now that does tell me that the townhouse market is fairly stable here, because we have a lot of people that are downsizing right now that don't necessarily want to downsize into a small condo. They still want some space, so they're downsizing into a townhouse. And those people that might be upsizing from, say, a condo and they've grown their family, they're moving into townhouses as well. And the last stat here is months of inventory. So that tells us whether we're sitting in a seller's market, a balanced market, or a buyer's market. Months of inventory, if we're sitting at 6 or more, we're in a buyer's market. So right now we are in a buyer's market. And for August, I expect that to jump even further into a buyer's market with more listings that are coming up, and I would imagine fewer sales as well. So if you're a buyer right now, there's more inventory than ever out there to choose from if you are ready to buy. And if you are a seller, don't forget the days on market are sitting at actually 73, so you might not want to lower that price just yet. And after you hit the subscribe button there, you'll find the other 2 videos helpful as well.